Hi everybody and welcome to Emprella's Real Wedding Chat. We've got today Jonny Pardoe, who is here for our self-esteem and confidence builder for leading up to our wedding days and after the wedding days as well. So Jonny, thank you for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for having me, and it's great to connect with a new industry completely. So I'm hopeful I'm going to give some great value to your listeners today. But yeah, my name's Jonny Pardoe. I am the founder of the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset. I'm an author, I'm a coach, and I'm also a podcaster. So many different ways I like to share the messages and give advice on helping people really take back control of their self-esteem and confidence. But yeah, I'm going to really enjoy our chat today. So thank you.
Me too. Been on a journey of self-esteem and confidence myself as a business owner and a woman and a mother and everything else in between. Absolutely love this conversation. I'm really looking forward to it today. And what tips you're going to have for our brides and grooms. I've just took my glasses off, so this is going to be interesting because the questions are very small. So can you tell us what's the difference between self-esteem and confidence?
Oh yeah, I love that question, and it's often something people ask. So self-esteem, and when I first started looking into it, I went on Google, started, because I knew what it was roughly, but when I got to this point where I really wanted to boost mine, and it sort of began my own journey on it, I started Googling it, like what's self-esteem, what's confidence, and really to understand it. But the simplest definition I give, and a few experts, therapists sort of go with this as well, is self-esteem is how much you like yourself. And we're not talking about what you've achieved and how much money you made and stuff, just how much do you like yourself as a human being? And unfortunately, quite a lot of us have challenges with this.
We do.
Including myself in the past and many people. And it would surprise you, some of the people, celebrities who come up with self-esteem issues. Confidence is basically your belief in your own abilities and yourself. Now, if someone comes to me and says, I want to improve my confidence, my first question is, confidence in what? Because confidence can either be self-confidence, where this is your general belief in your abilities and yourself across life. But then specific confidence, you could be confident in one area but not another. So for an example, I'm quite confident at writing books because I've written quite a few, but if you ask me to stand up and sing in front of people, not so confident. Voice.
Me too.
But again, going to like speaking in front of people, now I've developed the confidence in that over the years. So confidence can be quite specific, but it's generally your belief in your abilities.
Yeah, amazing. Straight away, the first trigger that came into my mind, being I have bridal shops, so I talk to women on the shop floor all the time. The confidence of walking down the aisle and everybody looking at them. So I can imagine from the other perspective, if you're at the other end of the aisle and your partner stood there waiting for you, the confidence of holding your self-esteem, your power there and then, waiting for your other half to walk down that aisle. Yeah, that's the first trigger that came into mind that I know that our couples can suffer with, basically. So thank you for clearing up what self-esteem and confidence is for us. So being overwhelmed when planning a wedding is very common. What advice would you give when making big decisions when it comes to planning your weddings?
Yeah, of course. And then just going back to what you said about I just want to touch on something you said about waiting at the aisle and things like that. Yeah. I mean, I haven't personally experienced that yet in terms of waiting for the woman to walk down the aisle and be my wife or anything, but you could experience it in other ways. And what kind of struck to mind there was people may have feelings of imposter syndrome pop up in those moments. Like, who am I to be getting married right now? Who am I to be here right now? And we get that in jobs when we're taking new things on board, trying new things. And I just want to kind of reassure people that that voice is very common, that thinking, who are you to be doing this? Because that's our brain that's us coming out of our comfort zone and doing something new, and our brain's wanting to feel safe. It's going into the unfamiliar. So I just kind of wanted to make a point on that is perfectly normal to experience as well.
Yeah.
So in terms of like, overwhelm and big decisions when there's a big day. I mean, I've been a project manager, so you can kind of get a lot of information, have to plan it all. But weddings, I'd imagine, a whole different bucket. So in terms of overwhelm in general, and then making decisions, I think it's really important to get it down on paper, first of all. Get it out of your head and onto paper, because our brains can get really cluttered and it's not easy to see what we're thinking. Sometimes we think ridiculous things, and put it down on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, about ourselves sometimes as well. Putting it down on paper is really going to help you unload some of that and see it actually what you need to do.
Yeah.
I think asking the right questions is really, really important, in terms of asking yourself, what do I need to do next? And the quality of our questions will affect the quality of our answers. So if we're asking ourselves, what could go wrong when kind of making decisions, you're going to get a bad answer. You're going to get like, this is going to go wrong, this is going to go wrong. But if we ask ourselves, what's going to be awesome about today? What can I look forward to? Then we're going to get completely different answers. We're going to say, I'm looking forward to that. And likewise, a question of like, what's a good next step I can do is going to really, really help. I think kind of generally writing it down and getting it out of your head that way can help, but also speaking it through with someone who's going to be a positive influence, not someone negative, because they're only going to kind of knock you down a little bit. But in terms of the decision making itself, you can take people's views on board, of course, but it's really important to remember that it's our responsibility for our own decisions, and actually sometimes distinguish between that fear voice in your head that's saying, don't do this, and actually what you're really, really feeling, going on gut. And in a different situation I've had to make, and people I've worked with have had to make with difficult decisions, like spending money on something that's like, oh my God, but it's actually going to be good for you. But you know, you're wanting to pay for it, it's going to benefit you, but then the fear factor comes in. So one final point I'd say, as well as listening to your gut feeling a little bit more, is to kind of associate pain and pleasure a little bit of your decision. So what I mean by that is you can look at your pros and cons in the old traditional way, but looking at actually what you're going to get from a decision, what is this going to reward you with, is good. But then sometimes we think, oh, this could go wrong. But then the other side to it is looking at what's going to happen if I don't make this decision as well. So that's some really useful things I certainly use and advise and help kind of clients to use when thinking through these decisions. So I'm sure that's something people going for a wedding will relate to as well.
Yeah, oh gosh, because of the decision making process of planning your wedding day, and I think you hit the nail on the head actually. Going to somebody who's positive. Also journaling. On Emperella, we've done some IGTVs about journaling for your wedding day, getting it out down on piece of paper. It so helps. But when it comes to actually people you approach to on planning your wedding day, we find that everyone has an idea how your wedding day should be. So straight away, you saying going to the positive person is absolutely perfect for us in that retrospect, because that's what we always say. So in regards to when, you know, wedding day, it's happening, you've got the family involved, and you do have that influx of people coming at you, dictating what you should do on your wedding day. You know, a lot of it is involved with money. You know, people are helping you pay for parts of your money, so they feel like they've got to tell you what you should do for your wedding day. A word I use a lot at the minute is acceptance. So what you mentioned before in regards to putting it down on paper, your pros and your cons. If you decide to go down a route that your Aunt Sally wants you to do because you're going to please Aunt Sally, and you know she is paying part of the wedding, you must accept that, you know, you're going to bring in this money, you're going to bring in her thoughts and ideas because she's bringing over the money in a way. You know, if you don't want to do what she doesn't want to do, what she wants to do, sorry, you know, your Aunt Sally who's giving you a couple of grand to help you towards your wedding, then we have to just tell them. We have to say out loud and say, I'm really sorry, thank you for your kind generosity, but I need to do it my way for myself, I find. And I think a lot of us do not have the confidence to stand up for our own ideas for our wedding days, I find. So yeah. But it was really good tips there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes people standing up for themselves, and certainly a number of different areas I've spoken with people about, and kind of like them being able to stand up to other people in different situations, and myself in the past, it's because we lack, you know, quite a lot of us are people pleasers on the fact that we want to get some kind of validation for ourselves. But I often find it's because we need to up the validations we give ourselves internally. We need to work on our self-esteem a little bit more, because if we can love ourselves a bit more, we will need less of that kind of external validation. So I had an old saying actually that goes, never skip self-esteem day, which is every day. So you're working on your self-love and your self-care every day. And I don't think that's something everyone does, but kind of when you come back to liking yourself and loving yourself a bit more, I think kind of that need to please other people actually reduces a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I was a people pleaser, and I'm on that path of learning not to be. Someone told me you can care, but you can also care for yourself. So you can care for people, but not outwardly care for people where it kills you. So you're forgetting about yourself. So I used to be one of those people that did so much for everybody else that I didn't do anything for me. So then this is me listening to you right now going, yeah, you're right, Jonny. I need to work on my self-esteem, don't I? And my confidence. So then I can say, I'm not going to do that because I want to do it my way, in the manners that I want to do, because I feel comfortable about who I am, and this is how I see it and how I want to do it. And I think, yeah, self-esteem is a biggie on regards to that. It's just clicked in place a little bit for me there as well. Being on that journey personally. So thank you for that. So what are your top tips to reduce stress, especially in the lead up to a big day? So what I find is I generally see the women bridal shop trying them on fitting stage 2 months before to 2 weeks before, collecting the wedding dress 1 or 2 days before the wedding day. And I find it extremely interesting to see the emotions just 2 months before the big day, how they're feeling, how they're keeping on top of everything. I find, me personally, that everyone who has been on top of the plans are okay, and those who haven't are really flustered. So have you got any really good tips on people who can not, in regards to that, for us, for the lead up?
Yeah, of course, on stress. So I think it's important to, and stress management, I think it's important to realize that stress is a perfectly normal thing to feel and experience in multiple situations. It's kind of our body and our mind like playing up when something new and uncomfortable is coming in, which, you know, is going to give us good reward. Like in wedding, you get, you know, hopefully marrying the love of your life and everything like that. But sometimes stress is a perfectly normal thing to experience. Obviously, on a consistent basis, it's that's when you would kind of look for someone to get help if they're experiencing it on a regular basis. But sometimes people have this perception that we shouldn't experience stress, and I don't want to experience stress, go away, and it just makes it worse. But accepting it, first of all, is a good first step. Just actually acknowledging how you're feeling, because a great phrase I heard was progress starts with truth. And when you can kind of acknowledge where you are and, you know, where you want to get to, that can really help. But denying, in any area of life, denying yourself of something it's just hiding it and going to make it worse. It's like the negative voices we can get. It's like, go away, negative voices. But instead, I prefer and sort of talk about people going towards the positive rather than trying to get away from the negatives. Like, oh, I can think this, this, and this. Again, that comes back to the questions you're asking yourself. I think one is your breathing is really important. So when we get more stressed, our breathing tends to speed up a little bit and go, like, the heart goes a lot quicker, and we're like,
I just took a deep breath then, Jonny. As soon as you said that, I literally put my feet on the floor, grounded myself, and took a deep breath.
I love it. It's so breathing can help. And so what I try to do 3 times a day is it's something I learned from a guy called Joseph McClendon, who works with Tony, actually, that I mentioned earlier. It's one of my group mentors, Joseph. But he basically goes on about few times a day, and I started doing this, like do 10 deep breaths, and it's a certain technique, but there's many breathing techniques, but scheduling that in the day is going to help on a general basis, whether you're feeling good or bad, because it gets your breathing into a more calm state on a more regular basis. So I think that's particularly important if you're coming up to something stressful like a wedding day. Exercise exercise is really important, because exercise produces endorphins, feel-good chemicals in the body, and that can reduce stress a lot. Sometimes we say we don't have time for it. I mean, I'd never use the excuse I don't have time for something that's good for me. So
that's me at the minute, Jonny. Putting it to the back of my to-do list, let's say. So,
okay.
but I totally agree with you, Jonny. It totally makes your mental state so much better. But how do you get yourself on the bottom of the to-do list to do the exercise when you're mentally so stuck on your day-to-day? Yeah, that's a hard one, I find.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of different things good for different people. So like, but generally exercise is one that is encouraged the most, but it's just like kind of scheduling it in really is the best advice I kind of tend to give on that. Like if you want to do something you feel like you should, is scheduling it in, or getting someone, being accountable to someone. And that's why it's like saying, right, I need to do this and I'm going to be accountable to you. And if I don't do this, you know, I'm going to not give myself coffee for a week or something. That's what I did with myself. But.
Oh my gosh, you've just, I've literally just texted my girlfriend Kat this week saying, can we go for walks? And that's my accountability person to get me back out there and start walking. So yeah, great tip. Yeah, accountability. Amazing.
I love it. And then the other side of it is diet as well. And you know, quite a lot of us, especially when we're in countries like England or USA and various, you know, just where I've spoken with people from, but we've got like all these treats and bad temptations around us. And I'm not saying like we need to be like an angel and be like eating all organic and fruit and veg 100% of the time. But if we're stuffing our faces with like processed foods, sugars, maybe too much alcohol and things like that, then it's only going to make temporarily, you know, it can make us feel slightly better, but then it just make us 2-3 times worse afterwards. So I think stress to manage your diet is really important. And I mean, I follow a vegan diet, and I'm not saying anyone needs to do that at all. And people have different diets and stuff like that, but I do that because the feelings it gives me rather than anything else. But obviously it helps other stuff as well. And the final one I'll say as well is, although I've got many more, I won't go on all day, but is smiling. This sounds a bit odd, like, yeah, but I'm not feeling happy, Jonny. I don't want to smile. Actually, it breaks the pattern. It breaks the pattern. Again, we talked about exercise releasing endorphins. If you start smiling, that can produce endorphins. And I remember hearing about this first of all, and like this couple of years ago, I was going through quite a tough time at work and dating situations and various things like that. And then I was like really like angry or upset or something, and I was just walking around. I was like, right, I've got to smile. I smile, and then I'm just like laughing. My brain's going, what's going on here? And it just changes your state completely. So practice smiling regularly in your day for just like 30 seconds, maybe 3 times a day, because that's going to produce a completely different state. I have reminders on my phone every hour or 2 hour that just says, right, start smiling. And then it produces that feeling like more regularly when you're smiling on a more regular basis.
Jonny, I absolutely love that one, that last tip. That's brilliant. That actually helps with the kindness when it comes to when you're doing things. You know, as soon as you've got a smile on your face, you're kind, aren't you? But if you've not got a smile on your face, you're going to be a grumpy bum. So
that's a good point. To others as well.
Love that. Yeah, really love that. Something triggered in my mind with the lead up when you mentioned the food. I always, when someone collects their wedding dress, I actually plan the morning, how they're going to get ready, when you're going to put your dress on. I actually say to them, what you're eating that day. So what time you're going to get married, and can you tell me actually when you plan to eat? Because I find that a lot of people don't actually plan that part of the day. But if you haven't eaten and you get married at 2 o'clock, let's say, you're going to be like on your knees by 2 o'clock and by 4 o'clock, and you're going to be you're not going to have the energy to warrant being the best that you can be on that day. So yeah, really good point about the food. It's something I want to work on actually with Emperella, how we have the balance. Amazing. So is there anything that you can do physically to improve our health and confidence? So you have just said that actually. So we've just touched on it, the diet, the exercise, the vitamins, that's all going to help our confidence when it's the lead up to the wedding day. I'm going to input a little thing here. Yes, we are talking about building our self-esteem and our confidence for our one big day, our wedding day. But what I find is brides, I talk a lot about brides because I generally speak to brides the most. So I find brides like, well, I am going to lose weight for my wedding day. Well, my counter back to that is, and I'll be interested to see what you say is, well, why are you doing it for one day? Why are you doing it? Why are you starting next month? Why are you doing it like that? Why are you not doing it now for today for yourself? So the balance of losing the weight, wanting to feel good about yourself, exercise and fit into that dress for that one day. Why have we not got that mentality to do that every day for our lives, to make sure that we make the most of everything that we do rather than just one day? That's all.
I hear that one a lot. I think it's the words that people say about it. I think the wording is what because the words we say to ourselves or about a situation makes such a difference. So I think the term "I want to lose weight for this day" or "want to lose weight for this" is not as effective as if you say "I want to gain more health and energy," because that's a positive. And when we kind of look to the negative and sort of running away, it doesn't make us feel as good. So I think kind of how we're perceiving it is completely changed by the language used there. So I think looking at actually how we say it, like, I want to gain more energy and health so I can be my best version to my newly wedded husband or my kids or my friends and family. I think it's really, really important to look at it like that, and then actually look at what are all the benefits other than just losing weight. Because when we look at like losing weight, it's just like, okay, I'm going to lose some weight, and it's just like, it's that. And then suddenly it's okay for a few days, and then maybe for the wedding or whatever. And then suddenly that nice chocolate cake or that nice, load of wine, although wine not as bad calorie wise.
Mine's Battenberg cake at the minute. My fella made it me this week.
Oh, lovely.
2 slices a day.
Oh, lovely. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have treats at all, but like if it just can impact if we have it all the time, but like constantly. And that's why there's kind of quite a lot of health problems in certain areas. But I think it's like looking at health as a positive thing and what benefits it's going to give us, rather than this, I've got to lose weight now. And it's like looking at actually what the benefits of gaining more health and energy are going to do to help our lives.
Do you know what? You're so right. Being a mother of 2 children, they've just turned 2 and 3. I put 4 stone on in my pregnancies, and my self-esteem just smashed. And I was trying to do too much, new mother and all things like that, running businesses. And I just, after Ida, she's just turned 2, and I just took it a day at a time, working on my self-esteem, working on confidence, and I've slowly been losing the excess weight that I put on. And I find what you're saying is so right. Accepting, take the balance, like I've just mentioned, my partner has made me Battenberg cake this week, but I have actually lost 2 pounds in the past 2 weeks. And that's because I'm moving more. I didn't used to move as much, but I've just got the accountability. And the reasons why is when I do these things, I feel fantastic. So why are we not doing these things more often? Because you're right, the sugar fixes and out there is so easy to get hold of, and it's a quick fix, isn't it? So if we get rid of the mentality of having a quick fix, we have a quick fix for everything on our wedding day as well. If we quickly do this, I'm going to be the best for my wedding day. I'm going to be the slimmest on my wedding day. I'm going to be the beautifulest on my wedding day. Why don't you want to do that every day?
I think it's also sometimes we try and set ourselves these goals which are like too big, and it's like suddenly, so for example, you might want to give up coffee or eating cake, and you're going, right, I'm not having any cake or coffee. And it's actually, or like all your favorite treats and something. And actually that's, at first it's like, oh, it's a good idea. And a great book that talks about this is called The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters. It talks about the chimp, the limbic part of the brain, the survival part, and then the human logical. The human logical's going, right, we need to do this, good idea. And then the chimp's going, yeah, that'll be good for our survival and stuff like that. And then suddenly, and the chimp's the one that plays havoc. And then suddenly, like a few days ago, and it's like, oh no, I don't want. And then the chimp's going, I want the food now. I want the food. And then it's like willpower, and willpower doesn't last. So it's about managing it. And I'd say kind of like allow treats at certain times, or kind of cut it down gradually. For some people, that'd be my other bit of advice, rather than going too full on, because then that can just, it's like doing too many new things at once. It's too much of a jump sometimes.
Yeah, and if you're doing this, all these changes on yourself and planning a wedding, you know, something's gonna go, isn't it? And then before your big day, you've not kept on top of everything, and then you're going to get yourself flustered. So yeah, brilliant advice in regards to each day and keeping yourself in check, writing these little things down. Like I write down every day what I want to achieve. You know, it keeps me in alignment for that day, and it keeps me in alignment for my future. So if I was planning a wedding, again, still not engaged myself, Jonny, but you know, if I was planning a wedding, I would write my things that I want to do for my wedding day, and I would visualize it, and it would keep me in alignment each day to make sure that my vision for my wedding day, I'm on top of it, rather than doing that whole panic at the end and going, I've not done this, I've not done that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so some really good tips. So how do we focus on what we want on our wedding day instead of taking on everyone else's opinions? This is a real biggie in weddings, and we've talked quite a bit on a couple of sessions already. So I mentioned earlier to you, Jonny, that you know, we have influences, people wanting to help towards the wedding days. We have influences from our family who have envisioned what your wedding day should be, because I'm a mother, I've got 2 girls. Of course, I'm going to, you know, envision how I see they're going to get married one day, and I probably would be outwardly pushing that on top of them without realizing, should I say, being a mother, you know. So there's going to be a lot of outward conversation and direction to these brides, to the grooms, to the, you know, the partners, saying, I think you should do this and I think you should do that. So what's your advice on controlling the emotions around that and building a day that you want?
Yeah, so first of all, I think in that case, it's quite important to be really clear on communication at the start on what you want with everyone. And even if that means getting someone close to you who you really trust, who's on the same wavelength as you, to take charge of that, but you interact with them fairly regularly and check everything's on track. And then perhaps you get everyone to direct to them or to you. But being really clear actually with people at the start is really, really going to help. Now, we talked about a little bit on, you know, people and their self-esteem and actually working on themselves so they don't need this external validation as much. So I think it's important to, first of all, like keep working your self-love and things like that. So I think actually focus on feeling good. Some of the tips we've shared already and talked about, like good exercise, good diet. One other thing I haven't added yet is praising yourself and speaking nicely to yourself every day, because when we're trying to sometimes get that validation for others, is because we don't have it from ourselves. And it's really, really good to actually keep saying nice things yourself. So like, again, this is I'm a bit weird, but I love it and I love me. But it's
we're all weirdos here.
yeah, but 3 times a day, I will shout out all the things I believe I am. And they were hard to believe at first to myself. And actually that will embed it in you. So actually believing yourself. So it's like, I am confident, and I'll be like, I'll shout that to myself like 3 times a day, because you're probably familiar with affirmations and things we say to ourselves, but I kind of go a step further and use incantations to say it of movement and meaning. So I'll sometimes run and I'll be shouting it to myself. And then sometimes I've got like a little trampoline here, sometimes jumping on that and saying things, because it allows it to go into your subconscious mind. a bit more, and that's where quite a lot of our behavior is driven from. So sorry, I was moving away from the question a bit, but it is related. It's like looking after yourself and talking to yourself nice, and also praising yourself, like giving yourself a pat on the back, like when you're doing something good, and encouraging good behavior. Because when someone else does something nice to us, we're like, oh, I feel good, I'm going to do it again. But guess what? We can be in control of that because we just praise ourselves. So doing that and saying, you're doing a really good job organising this wedding. Well done. And it sounds a bit silly, but it's effective. And I praise myself for when I lose my focus. I'm like, I'm going to be sitting down doing this long bit of work, and I'm like, oh, I've lost focus. Oh, I'm back on focus. Well done, Jonny. And I'm like, going again. So it can praise yourself. That's really going to help your self-esteem as well. So sorry, I think I interrupted you.
No. I absolutely love that idea. As soon as you mentioned that then about praising yourself, I actually see myself doing it, which is hilarious. And I've never done the praising yourself technique. So thank you for highlighting that one to all of our listeners in regards to that. So okay, I'm gonna say something. You've just said praise ourselves, talk to ourselves. People might think that we're talking a bit woo-woo, who's never come across talking in this terminology, let's such, you want us to talk to ourselves, and I'm gonna feel better for my wedding day. So how long have you been doing it for, Jonny? And could you tell us the changes it's created in your life, so then people can be enlightened that it's not all woo woo. It's not weird. We're doing stuff like this. I do it, Jonny. I'm outwardly. I don't shout it out and stuff like that, but I do. I have mine's on a mirror, and I say it to myself every day, and I talk to myself saying who I am and who I want to be. So anyone who's listening out there and they think, oh, it's a bit weird, that, isn't it? Shouting like I am confident 3 times a day. How would you say how to get across that barrier through your own personal experiences?
Yeah, of course. So my kind of journey on like this, personal growth, it's probably been about, he's getting what year in there. 2008. I'd say it's about like 2018, I really got into the whole personal growth space. But this self-esteem and confidence area, I got in about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years. But for me, I was at a very, very low point in my life, and I really didn't like me. And it surprised some people, because again, this is why I talked about confidence a little bit. It'd be like, I'd be confident sometimes, like talking in meetings, but I used to be terrified. But then on the inside, I'd be really, really unhappy and didn't like myself. And I often sought a lot of external validation, others' opinions. It'd be like how well the job's going, how well, if I got that text message off that girl I liked, or kind of like, how's it going, my social life and things like that. And then I just got to this real, real low, and I was like really upset. I remember being on holiday as well, and I just went, I can't do this, I can't be like feeling like this anymore. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to do everything I can to boost my self-esteem and confidence as much as possible. And it's a never ending journey. It's always, you can increase it. I come up against things now and then. It'll be like, ooh, feeling a bit nervous, but I'm quicker now to like respond to it, because even celebrities admit to like having like insecurities and stuff like that now and then. Like I remember Jennifer Lopez saying she had sold 70 million albums, but yet she feels like an imposter. It's like it's an ever growing journey. Jodie Foster won an Oscar, which no rhyme intended there, but it was an accidental one. But she won it, and she felt like it's going to be taken back from her. So anyway, it was on my journey, and I kept like reading stuff and learning things to boost my self-esteem and confidence. I got quite deep and discovered some limiting beliefs. Like when I was 2.5, my brother died, and at the time I didn't really know what was happening, but that meant my mum and dad had to go to the hospital a lot and leave me with, obviously my parents are wonderful, by the way, but and my little sister was born afterwards. But like I was being left with friends and family a lot. And then I was like, where's my mum and dad? Do they not love me? And you're thinking that as a 2.5-year-old, as a 30-year-old, I just turned 30. It's like, that's not true. And you're thinking, but like at the time you've got this belief inside of you, and it's kind of driving a lot of my behavior. And then like various things, like through school, I remember I was a little bit like chubbier and spottier than my friends, and then kind of wasn't as popular. But then I kind of grew up and kind of worked on myself and stuff like that, but you still got those beliefs within yourself. So kind of for me, it's like learning it all and then applying things. So when I started saying these things to myself, it just suddenly some days you catch yourself doing things and you're like, wow, I've got so much confidence. Where did that come from? But it's actually because I've trained that subconscious within me. And that's, your subconscious drives so much of your behavior. We don't even realize where we self-sabotage and do things like that. And then I was just training it. I'm like suddenly like feeling so like energetic and going for things, but it's doing things like shouting, like I'm unstoppable, I'm ecstatic joy every day. And, you know, you're going to have bad days, but it's just like the majority of the time you feel quite good. So that's kind of how I got into it, certainly.
Very inspirational, Jonny, and thank you for your pastimes and how you got to where you are now. It was really enlightening, actually, to be honest with you. Yeah,
no problem. I'm always happy sharing the story, but I mean, like I was kind of touching on, it's important to realize that like most of us, we think we're alone when we got like these insecurities, but different people have different insecurities in different situations. Different beliefs are embedded within us, and it's always an ongoing journey. I can always build mine up. I'm not going to say I'm the most confident person in the world, but I've certainly built it up, and I know there's people who really need to build theirs up. So that's why I'm really passionate about helping people take control of their self-esteem and confidence as much as possible.
Yeah. If we're gonna constantly say to ourselves, "Oh, I've done a rubbish job of that," in regards to the wedding, I'm not gonna look the best on the wedding day. We're gonna constantly think negative about stuff, and if we constantly think negative and we talk negatively, we're gonna believe it. So if we take on what you're saying, Jonny, and we talk outwardly out loud about the positivities, and we talk inwardly inside to our minds about the positivities as well, and we're going to believe them instead. So instead of talking about the negatives, we need to talk about the positives, so our brain isn't dwelling on all of those horrible little thoughts that you get. Your brain is actually changing over and thinking about all the positive things that you're achieving and planning with your wedding day. So, and we normally, I know me being a female, and generally females talk about this, and I don't really see guys talk as much, and I can't answer, but we do generally, whatever the scenario is, we build it worse than what it is in our brains, rather than just saying it outwardly, and then we solve it there and then. So as a female, I know that the imposter syndrome and all that, I would make something up that isn't even happening. I used to, should I say, until I went on my journey, very similar to yours actually. And I'm like, it's not even happened, and I've just wasted 4 or 5 days thinking negatively when I could be outwardly talking positively, which puts me in the right mind frame and feelings, and then my actions during those days, because we're using Jonny's smiles, so we're smiling during the day as well, and we're talking about all these positives and how confident we are. I'm going to do this for my wedding day and all that. You're going in the right direction instead of thinking about all the wrong things, and you believe in the right things rather than the wrong things as well. That's what I learned recently, actually. And it was great to hear from your perspective as well, which is really good, really cool, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a case, what I like to look at a lot is habits. Like we can take one-off actions to kind of, and we might get a result from an action, and then results give us confidence as well. But we sometimes have to do the thing we're not confident about to get the feeling. And actually confident feeling comes after the action. But the habits day in, day out are what make us. So it's not just like a one-off, I'm going to say nice things to myself. It's like constantly, because as the old Aristotle quote is, excellence is not an act, but a habit. I love that quote, but it's like what you do constantly over and over again. And, if we're asking ourselves negative questions, if we're saying negative things, it's going to make us feel that way. It's going into our subconscious. It's going to drive us to more negativity. But doing it over and over again is really important. And I think one thing is people want, quite a lot of instant gratification in this world. And sometimes these habits take a while to feel new things. But in the moment, doing things like smiling can actually make you feel good. So, it's just all about habit is what I like to look at as well.
Yeah, and consistency. So like touching on the I want it now mentality. So we are living in such a fast-paced world. We can order something and it arrives that day. It can arrive the day after, and we have to, you know, you can send an email and you want someone to respond straight away. Well, that's, if you take all of this away, that's not the real way, like how we are, how we're wired and things like that. You know, take some time out if you want some time out, and do it in your time. So when you're under pressure of achieving so much for your wedding day, you've got to do it in a certain way, in a certain time frame. You know, ground yourself, breathe, like Jonny's saying, and literally put it all on pen and paper, put it down, and then just liaise it day to day and take one day at a time. And you transform the way you think, your actions, and your wedding planning journey will totally transform, won't it? I can imagine if you take your steps on, because the steps that you're taking, I'm personally taking myself through my businesses and my lifestyle, and I have seen the changes so much personally. And it's not all straight at once. I only do a little bit a day. You know, don't overwhelm yourself. You know, and it works. It really works. So, you know, Jonny's proven that it works for Jonny, proven it's working for me, and we're both stating here, you know, we will still feel self-esteem, and our confidence might be drop every now and then, but if you constantly work on it, you're going to constantly grow and be able to understand it as well, I find. And once we understand it, and once we actually say it out loud, I find it's not as big as it actually is. That's my latest little thing as well. So yeah, but very exciting. I do not know many people who talk about this in a mannerism in regards to weddings. So I want to constantly keep jumping on board this conversation and making sure that our mental health and our bodies are in a great like condition as such to be your best on your wedding day, but also to be the best right now and in your marriage. So yeah, great tips, and I can't wait to share them all. So thank you so much, Jonny. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we close it off?
No, I've really enjoyed being on the show and having this conversation with you. So thank you so much for that. The only other thing I'd add, I think I was thinking about it when you were talking, is that our brain naturally, if you're wondering why we sometimes think negative by default, it's also our brain's wired to do so, to keep us alive. So that's the limbic part. So it's, again, what we're going, but you can retrain it, and kind of linking to what we talked about is that, don't overwhelm yourself with new habits, but just keep doing these little habits, take some of the advice on board, think what's going to be good for you, and then you're going to be able to default to a more positive state on a regular basis. So that's the only point I'd end on.
Yeah, perfect. Hit nail on the head for me. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jonny. And that is this session's Real Wedding Chat. And you can catch it on YouTube, Spotify as an audio, and on IGTV. And we'll make sure that we have Jonny's links so you can go and check out Jonny and go and converse with Jonny and get some support from him as well. And I would love to make sure that we keep Jonny in cahoots with supporting you guys over on Umbrella too. So thank you so much, Jonny.
Thank you.